The wedding hall goes silent. 600 guests. One bride on the stage in red and gold. And one door that just slammed open. Ethan Cole freezes mid-vow, staring at the woman standing at the entrance, because she has the same face as the one holding his hand. "Which one of you," he whispers, "is Chloe?" Nobody answers. The girl on the stage, the one he has spent 3 weeks falling in love with, looks down at the ring on her finger like it suddenly belongs to someone else. Her twin sister steps forward, mascara running, a torn photograph clutched in a fist. And somewhere behind them, an old woman in a wheelchair, the only person in this hall who knew the truth from the very first night, finally exhales. "I tried to warn you," she says quietly. The wrong girl fell in love. 3 weeks earlier, none of this was supposed to happen at all. In the Bennett household, every mirror had 2 reflections, but only one was ever chosen. Chloe and Megan were identical in every way except the one that mattered to their parents. Chloe stayed. Megan left. It happened when they were 19. Their father's textile business had one obedient daughter and one who asked too many questions, and when a scholarship offer landed in Chicago with Megan's name on it, their mother told her, not unkindly, that a house only needed one bride in training. Megan went. She did not come back for 4 years. Chloe stayed, and stayed, and stayed, through every society matchmaker who measured her waist with her eyes, every dinner where she smiled at men who talked past her to her father, every year that quietly rearranged her into exactly the daughter her family wanted. She learned to pour tea without spilling, to laugh at the right moment, to want nothing out loud. Then she met Jake. He was nobody, by her family's math, a junior architect with no land, no business, no uncle in government. He was also the only person who had ever asked Chloe what she wanted, and actually waited for the answer. For 8 months, they existed in the small, stolen corners of her scheduled life, a bookstore on Tuesdays, voice notes at midnight, a relationship built entirely out of borrowed time. Then her father came home one evening and said the words that ended the borrowed time completely. "The Coles have agreed. Ethan and you. The families will meet Thursday." The Coles were not a family you said no to. Ethan Cole ran his father's construction empire, the kind of match that made Chloe's mother cry actual tears of relief at the dinner table, the kind of match that would erase every debt, every whispered doubt about their family standing, in a single signature. Chloe sat very still and said, "Of course, Dad," because that was the only sentence she had ever been allowed to say back. That night she called Jake and could not stop shaking. "I have 4 days, she told him. 4 days before I meet a stranger my whole family has already decided I'm marrying." "Then don't go," Jake said. "You don't understand what happens if I don't go." She hung up before he could answer, because she already knew. If she refused, her father's business survived on its own for maybe another year. If she refused, her mother's carefully rebuilt reputation in front of the same aunties who'd once pitted her cracked open again. If she refused, she wasn't just losing a marriage, she was taking her whole family down with her. She didn't sleep. Somewhere around 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, she thought of the one person on earth who had ever managed to stand in a room and be exactly, unapologetically herself, no matter what it cost her. She picked up her phone and called her sister for the first time in 11 months. Megan picked up on the 4th ring, half asleep in a Chicago apartment that still had moving boxes stacked against one wall. "Chloe, it's 3 a.m., what's wrong?" "I need you to come home." Megan sat up. In 4 years, her sister had never once asked her for anything. What happened? Chloe told her everything in one long breath: the Coles, the Thursday meeting, Jake, the 4 days, the version of her life that was about to be signed away without her signature actually meaning anything. "I just need you to come to the first dinner," Chloe said. "Just the first one. Pretend to be me for one night so I can figure out how to fix this without blowing up Dad's business in the process." "Chloe, that's insane. You look exactly like me. You always have. Nobody's seen either of us in years except Mom and Dad, and they won't say a word because they need this match too badly to risk it." Megan should have said no. She had built 4 years of distance specifically so nobody could hand her a role in this family script ever again. But there was something in her sister's voice she hadn't heard since they were teenagers, real fear, not performed fear, and underneath 4 years of resentment, Megan still remembered exactly what it felt like to be the daughter who wasn't allowed to want anything. "One dinner," Megan said. "That's it. Then you tell them the truth, or I do." Chloe exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 4 days. "One dinner. I promise." Their mother nearly fainted when Meghan walked through the door 20 hours later, not from surprise, but from the sheer risk of it. "If anyone finds out," her mother hissed, pulling both daughters into the kitchen, "we are finished. Both families. Do you understand?" Their father wouldn't even look at Meghan directly, as if eye contact might make the plan more real than he could stomach. Chloe wired Meghan into everything overnight: Ethan's name, his mother's tendency to ask sharp questions disguised as compliments, the fact that Chloe had told the family matchmaker she loved cooking despite having never turned on a stove, small biographical landmines scattered through months of family gossip that Meghan now had to memorize like a script. "Just get through dinner," Chloe said, fastening the delicate hairpin in the scarf she'd chosen for her sister with shaking hands. "Smile, agree with everything, and it's done. I'll handle the rest after." Meghan looked at her reflection, her sister's reflection, technically, tonight, and felt something settle in her chest that she hadn't expected. Not fear exactly, but a strange, sharp curiosity about the man she was about to lie to. "For the record," Meghan said, "I'm terrible at agreeing with everything." "Then don't get caught doing it too well," Chloe said, and pushed her toward the car. The Cole family had a house that looked like it had been built specifically to intimidate: marble floors, a driveway longer than the street Meghan grew up on, staff who opened doors before you reached them. Meghan had spent 4 years in a Chicago apartment where the stove sometimes wouldn't light. She almost laughed walking in. Ethan Cole was not what she expected. Every matchmaking story she'd half listened to over the years painted men like this the same way: entitled, bored, already checking their phone under the table. Instead, she found a man leaning against a bookshelf, visibly uncomfortable in his own dinner party, watching the room like he was counting exits. "You're staring at the exit route," Meghan said, before she could stop herself. It was exactly the kind of thing Chloe would never say to a stranger, let alone a stranger her family had chosen for her. Ethan blinked, then actually laughed, surprised out of him. Was it that obvious? "You've checked the front door twice in the last 90 seconds. In my defense, my mother invited 11 aunties I've never met and told me this was a small family dinner." "Mine told me to smile and not have opinions," Meghan said. "So we are both being lied to tonight." Something shifted in his expression, not attraction exactly, not yet, but attention, the specific kind of attention people rarely got in rooms built for performance instead of conversation. For the next hour, while both families orbited around them exchanging pleasantries about property values and wedding dates nobody had actually agreed on yet, Ethan kept finding his way back across the room to the woman his family called Chloe. She told him, carefully, in Chloe's borrowed biography, that she'd studied in Chicago, that she missed the sea, that she found small talk exhausting. All true, technically. Just not true for the person whose name she was wearing. "Everyone in this room has already decided how this dinner ends," Ethan said quietly, near the end of the night, standing slightly apart from the crowd. "My mother's already picked a wedding hall. Did you know that?" "I did not," Meghan said, and meant it. "Does that terrify you?" Meghan looked at him, really looked, the way she hadn't let herself look at anyone in a long time, because looking meant risking that you'd actually see something you wanted. "A little," she admitted. "Mostly it terrifies me that nobody's asked either of us what we actually want." Ethan didn't answer that. But he didn't look away either. Driving home, Meghan's phone buzzed with Chloe's message. How was it? Did they suspect anything? Meghan stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back. "No. Dinner's done. You're off the hook." She didn't mention that she'd stayed 40 extra minutes after the family said their goodbyes, talking to Ethan Cole on the front steps about nothing important, about everything, until his mother called him back inside. She didn't mention that some small, reckless part of her wasn't ready for it to be over yet. 2 days after the first dinner, Ethan's mother invited Chloe for tea, alone. No chaperoning aunties this time, just the two of them on the same veranda where, unknown to anyone yet, half the real story would eventually unfold. "My son doesn't talk this much about anyone," his mother said, watching Meghan carefully over the rim of her cup. "Usually I have to drag conversation out of him at these things. With you he just kept talking." "Maybe he was nervous," Meghan offered. "Ethan doesn't get nervous. He gets quiet." His mother set the cup down. "You should know something about this family before you commit to it. We don't forgive easily, and we don't forget at all. If you are entering this marriage for the wrong reasons, better to say so now than to let it come apart later, when it will hurt everyone twice as much." Meghan held the woman's gaze and, for one unsettling second, wondered if she already knew. I understand, she said carefully. I would never want to build anything on something false. It was, she would think much later, the truest sentence she'd told that family in 5 weeks, and also the one that would come back to haunt her hardest. Ethan found her by the gate as she was leaving. She interrogated you, didn't she? A little. She does that. It means she's already decided she likes you and wants to make sure she's right. He walked her to the car in no particular hurry, hands in his pockets, the kind of unhurried silence that felt, oddly, like the most honest conversation of the whole evening. For what it's worth, he said, just before she got in, I wasn't nervous because it was an arranged dinner. I was nervous because I actually wanted you to stay. One dinner was never going to be the end of it, and Megan knew that the moment Ethan's mother called their house the next morning to say the family was delighted and wanted to move quickly, there was a business trip to Singapore in 6 weeks, and it would mean so much if the engagement could happen before then. 6 weeks, Chloe repeated, pale, when Megan called to tell her. I need more than one dinner, Megan. I need time to figure out how to actually stop this without Dad's business collapsing. So take the time, Megan said. I'll go to the engagement. Just the engagement. It should have stopped there. It didn't. The engagement led to a formal family lunch, which led to a shopping trip with Ethan's mother and sister to select bridal fabric, which led to a dozen small errands that all seemed to require Chloe specifically. Every time, Chloe had a reason she couldn't go, final semester deadlines, a migraine, a cousin's emergency, and every time, Megan found herself putting her sister's scarf back on and walking into rooms full of people who had no idea they were talking to the wrong daughter. There was a reason the wedding was being rushed, and it had very little to do with romance. Ethan's father had staked the company's biggest contract in a decade on a joint venture with the Bennett family's oldest business partner, a deal that would only close cleanly if the marriage did, and he said as much to Ethan over breakfast one morning, not unkindly, but not gently either. I'm not asking you to marry a stranger for the contract, his father said. I'm telling you that timing helps everyone. You clearly like the girl. Everyone wins. That's a very tidy way of describing my entire life, Ethan said. Most good arrangements are tidy, his father replied, and went back to his newspaper, as if that settled it. Ethan didn't repeat the conversation to Megan, but she felt its aftershock anyway, in the slightly harder set of his jaw at the next family lunch, in the way he watched his father talk business with her father across the table like he was measuring exactly how much of his own choice was actually his. She wanted, badly, to tell him that at least one thing in this entire arrangement was real, whatever her name turned out to be. She said nothing, because saying anything honest meant saying all of it. What Megan hadn't planned for was how easy it became. Not the lying stayed hard, a small cold weight she carried into every room, but the rest of it. She liked Ethan's mother's sharp, testing questions once she learned to answer them honestly instead of performing Chloe's careful agreeableness. She liked that Ethan noticed when she was uncomfortable in a crowded room and quietly redirected the conversation without making a scene of it. She liked, more than she wanted to admit, the version of herself that showed up whenever he was in the room, sharper, funnier, less careful than she'd let herself be in years. You've changed since the engagement, Ethan told her one evening, 3 weeks in, as they sat on the veranda while their families argued good-naturedly about engagement party colors inside. Good changed. You used to answer everything like you were being tested. Maybe I got tired of being tested, Megan said, which was, unbearably, the truest sentence she'd said to him yet. Meanwhile, Chloe's life ran on a parallel, secret track. Every exam and migraine she used as an excuse was really an afternoon with Jake, long walks, apartment hunting they couldn't afford yet, the kind of ordinary future planning that felt impossible and necessary at once. I just need until after the wedding pressure dies down, Chloe told him. Then I'll figure out how to tell them the truth. About all of it. There's no version of after the wedding where this gets easier, Chloe, Jake said. You know that. She did know that. She kept not doing anything about it anyway, because Megan was handling the impossible part so well that it was easy, dangerously, conveniently easy, to let the deadline keep sliding. The one person who wasn't fooled at all was Ethan's grandmother. Grandma Cole attended every family gathering from a wheelchair positioned near the window, saying very little, watching everything. She had raised Ethan after his mother's long illness years ago and trusted almost no one on his behalf. On the third family lunch, she asked Chloe to pour her tea, watch her do it left-handed, and said nothing, but her eyes stayed on Megan's hands a beat too long. The real Chloe was right-hand. Always had been. Grandma Cole didn't say anything that day. She simply watched, the way she'd watched every match that had ever walked through her grandson's door, waiting to see if this one was worth trusting or worth exposing. By the 5th week, the wedding date had been set for 3 weeks out, faster than either family had originally planned, pushed forward by Ethan's father's business calendar. Chloe, informed of the new date over the phone, went quiet for so long Megan thought the call had dropped. Chloe. 3 weeks, Chloe finally said. Megan, I don't know how to stop this in 3 weeks. Then stop stalling and tell them, Megan said, sharper than she meant to. I can't keep doing this. Every day I do this, it gets harder to. She stopped herself before the sentence finished itself honestly. Harder to what? Megan didn't answer. She didn't need to. Both sisters, for the first time in the entire arrangement, understood exactly what the silence meant. Jake had asked her to marry him 3 days earlier, in the ordinary, unglamorous way people propose when they aren't performing it for anyone, sitting on a bench outside the bookstore where they'd spent every Tuesday for 8 months, no ring yet, just a question and a terrified, honest face. I don't have land or a business or an uncle in government, he told her. I have a job offer in Denver and a very small apartment, and I would like to spend the rest of my life asking you what you actually want, if you'll let me. Chloe said yes before she'd let herself think about what saying yes would cost her. Then she spent 3 sleepless nights doing exactly that math, and every version of it ended the same way. There was no telling her family the truth that didn't detonate everything at once, unless someone else was left standing in the wreckage to absorb the blast for her. 2 weeks before the wedding, Chloe showed up at Megan's temporary room in their parents' house at midnight, eyes red, a packed bag already sitting by the door. Jake got a job offer, Chloe said. Denver. It starts in a month. He asked me to come with him, really come, not sneaking around come. An actual life. Megan sat up slowly. Chloe, what are you asking me? I can't do this anymore. I can't marry Ethan. I can't face Dad. I can't be in that house when the truth comes out, and it is going to come out, Megan, one way or another. Chloe's voice cracked. But you're already there. You're already Chloe to them. You're better at being Chloe than I ever was. The room went very still. Say it, Megan said quietly. Say the actual sentence. Marry him, Chloe whispered. As me. Just keep being me. Forever, not just for a dinner. I'll disappear. I'll go be Megan somewhere far away where nobody asks questions, and you can have the life everyone already thinks you're living. For a long moment, Megan didn't say anything at all, because some small, terrifying part of her, the part that had spent 5 weeks falling for a man who thought her name was someone else's, actually considered it. Then she stood up. No, she said. Absolutely not. I am not spending my entire life wearing your name, Chloe. And you are not running away from your own family without even trying to tell them the truth first. That's not bravery, that's just a different kind of hiding. So what do I do? You tell them, Megan said. All of it. Before the wedding, not after. And I'll be standing right next to you when you do, because I let this go 5 weeks too far, and that's on me too. Chloe wiped her face, nodding slowly, some of the panic draining out of her at finally having a plan that wasn't just running. Okay. After the engagement party. I'll tell Dad after the engagement party, before the actual ceremony. Neither of them accounted for Grandma Cole. 3 days before the engagement party, the old woman asked Megan, alone, in the quiet of the Cole family sitting room, no one else present, to help her with a photo album from Ethan's childhood. Halfway through, she stopped on a picture of 2 identical little girls at a wedding, maybe 6 years old, standing on either side of a much younger version of Megan's own mother. I have a very good memory for faces, Grandma Cole said, not looking up from the album. Better than most people expect from someone my age. Megan's stomach dropped. You pour tea with your left hand, Grandma Cole continued, calm as anything. The girl in this photograph, on the right, the one I met at your family's dinner, is right hand. I noticed it the very first week. I have said nothing, because my grandson smiles more around you than he has in 3 years, and I did not want to be the reason that stopped. She finally looked up, eyes sharp and unreadable. But I am done watching in silence. Whoever you are, and I suspect I already know, you will tell him the truth before that wedding, or I will. The engagement party was 3 days later, the backyard strung with fairy lights, a live band pulling half the guest list into dancing. Megan stood at the edge of it in yellow and gold that wasn't hers, watching Ethan laugh with his cousins across the courtyard, and felt the entire 5-week lie sitting in her chest like a stone. She had promised Grandma Cole the truth would come before the wedding. She had promised herself the same thing weeks ago, quietly. Somewhere around the third time, Ethan made her laugh without trying. Tonight, watching him glance across the crowd and find her immediately, the way he always did now, she understood exactly how much that truth was about to cost. "Dance with me," Ethan said, appearing at her side, hand extended. "My mother's been narrating our entire relationship to Grandma Cole for 20 minutes like a nature documentary. I need an escape." Megan almost laughed despite everything. "Your grandmother doesn't need narration. She sees everything." "She likes you," Ethan said. "That's rarer than you think. She didn't like the last 3 girls my mother tried to introduce me to before you." He pulled her gently into the edge of the dancing, close enough to talk under the music. "I like you too. In case 5 weeks of showing up to every family event wasn't obvious enough." Megan's throat tightened. This was it, the moment, the exact shape of the confession she owed him, sitting right there in her mouth. "Chloe. Ask me about Chloe, and I'll tell you everything." Across the courtyard, her phone buzzed violently in her clutch bag. She almost ignored it. Something made her check. "Jake is here. At the house. He came to convince me to leave tonight, before the wedding, and I think I'm going to go with him, and I don't know if I can walk in there and say goodbye to Dad first. I don't know if I can do any of this the right way. I'm so sorry, Megan. I'm so sorry." Megan's stomach fell through the floor. Whatever plan they'd made, engagement party confession, controlled truth before wedding, was collapsing in real time, 3 days ahead of schedule and completely out of her control. "I have to go," Megan said, already stepping back from him. "What? Why?" "Family emergency. I'm so sorry, I have to go right now." She was already moving toward the gate, heart hammering, when Grandma Cole's wheelchair rolled directly into her path, blocking it. "The truth doesn't wait for a convenient exit," the old woman said quietly, just for her. "Whatever is happening, you tell him tonight, or you don't get to be angry when it comes apart without you in the room to explain it." "I know," Megan said, voice breaking. "I know, I'm trying." "Then go," Grandma Cole said, and wheeled aside. "But come back and finish it." Megan never made it back to explain anything on her own terms. By the time she reached her parents' house, Chloe was gone, a note on the kitchen table, a taxi already halfway to the airport with Jake, a decision finally made after months of almost deciding. Her parents were frantic, furious, terrified of what this meant for the wedding 2 days away, and in the chaos, nobody stopped to ask the obvious, impossible question, which daughter was which. The wedding proceeded on schedule, because stopping it now, with the Cole family's entire business calendar and reputation riding on it, felt to Megan's parents like a second catastrophe stacked on the first. "We will explain everything after," her mother said, hands shaking as she adjusted Megan's bridal veil. "After the ceremony. We will find the right way to tell them." Megan, numb, let herself be dressed for a wedding under a name that wasn't hers, telling herself there would be one more moment, one private minute with Ethan before the vows, to finally say it out loud herself instead of letting her parents manage it into something smaller and safer. She tried twice. Once in the hallway outside the groomsmen's suite, where Ethan's cousins pulled him away laughing before she could get a full sentence out. Once by the car, where his mother appeared at exactly the wrong second, beaming, already crying happy tears, already thanking Megan for finally becoming the daughter she'd always wanted. Megan smiled and said nothing and hated herself a little more each time the moment slipped past her. That moment never came. The hall filled with 600 guests before she could find him alone. The ceremony began. And then the doors at the back of the hall burst open. Chloe stood there, flight delayed, conscience louder than her fear, Jake one step behind her, mascara running, breathing hard, having turned the taxi around somewhere on the highway when she realized she could not let her sister carry this lie all the way to the altar in her place. The hall went silent. 600 guests turned. Ethan, mid-vow, looked from the woman at the door to the woman beside him, 2 identical faces, one ring already on the wrong hand, and understood, in the space of a single frozen second, that something about the last 5 weeks had been a story he was never told the ending of. "Which one of you," he said slowly, "is Chloe?" Nobody answered right away. Megan looked down at the ring on her finger like it belonged to a stranger. Chloe stepped forward through the stunned crowd, the torn photograph, the one from Grandma Cole's album, taken from Megan's bag without her noticing, clutched in her shaking hand. And Grandma Cole, from her wheelchair near the stage, finally exhaled. "I tried to warn you," she said quietly, into the silence of 600 people. The wrong girl fell in love. It took an hour, a cleared hall, and both families sitting in stunned, separate silence for the whole truth to come out. Chloe's engagement she never wanted, the one dinner that became 5 weeks, the sister who was never supposed to fall in love with a man wearing someone else's name in her mouth. Ethan's father was furious. His mother cried, more from humiliation than heartbreak. For a long, terrible stretch, it looked like both families' reputations were about to collapse into exactly the disaster Chloe had spent 5 weeks trying to prevent. Ethan said almost nothing through all of it. He sat across from Megan, actually Megan, for the first time with her real name spoken out loud between them, and Megan braced herself for every version of anger she'd imagined for 5 weeks straight. "The front step conversation," he said finally. "After the very first dinner. You stayed 40 minutes after everyone left to talk to me about nothing. That was you. Not her." "That was me," Megan said quietly. "The tea. Left-handed. My grandmother mentioned it to me an hour ago like it was obvious." A long pause. Was any of it her? Or was it always just you? "It was always me," Megan said. The name was the only thing that was ever hers. Ethan exhaled something that wasn't quite a laugh. "I spent 5 weeks falling in love with a woman I thought I already knew everything about, and it turns out I didn't even know her name. And somehow that's still the least surprising thing that's happened tonight." It didn't fix itself overnight. Ethan's family needed weeks to speak to the Bennetts again without wounded pride getting in the way, and there was one particularly brutal dinner, 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, where both fathers sat at opposite ends of a table refusing to be the first to apologize, until Grandma Cole banged her cane on the floor and reminded everyone in the room that she was the only person present who had told the truth the entire time, and she would very much like her tea now, hot, poured by whichever granddaughter-in-law was actually staying. Chloe, married quietly to Jake in Denver within the month, wrote her parents a long letter apologizing for the deception and, for the first time in her life, meaning every word of what she actually wanted instead of what she was supposed to want. "I am not sorry I left," she wrote. "I am only sorry I made Megan carry the leaving for me. She is the brave one in this family. I think we always knew that and just never said it out loud." Grandma Cole, unrepentant to the end, told anyone who'd listen that she'd known the whole time and simply enjoyed watching everyone else catch up. 6 months later, in a small courtyard with less than 40 guests, Ethan Cole married Megan Bennett, her actual name, spoken correctly by the officiant for the first time in the entire story. No stand-in, no borrowed veil, no version of herself left waiting at home while someone else lived her life for her. "Any last-minute doors bursting open I should know about?" Ethan asked her quietly, just before the vows. Megan laughed, her own Real laugh, finally, with nothing to hide behind it. "Not this time. This one's really me."